Hi, last week I did a webinar with PlayFutures, which is funded by the LEGO Foundation, and the general question was, why are play and learning not just naturally together? How did we separate them? What happened? And the same thing happened with work. We somehow created all these different spheres. During the Q&A at the end, I answered a bunch of questions, but there were a couple questions left over, in fact 3 of them. So what I'd like to do is right now answer those 3 questions right here. So 2 of them came from Mikkel Lodal, who during the session asked really great questions as well. One of Mikkel's questions is about, when you're sitting in a Ministry of Education in some country, how do you look at all this? They're really easy for them to monitor numbers and to go statistical on education. They like all these kinds of things. How do you get them to give more space to informal learning? How do you reduce the anxiety of political scientists who are in the mix? And I have to say, Mikkel, this is a really, really tough question, because the bureaucracy of education is poured in very, very hard concrete with reinforcement bars. It is really impervious to assault for many things. Luckily, they've been loosening up a little bit with experimental teaching methods like project-based learning, flipped classroom. There's a whole series of things that I'm pleased with, but you're still basically inside school with a capital S, and everybody thinks the best thing possible for all children is to put them in schools with a capital S. That's why we have the compulsory education system, which is a big piece of what my talk was about. So I think it's an uphill battle to talk to them. The most you can maybe look for is the loosening of rules to allow you to take children out into the world and learn on their own. And I think that's a reasonable sort of request, because then we can on the outside go build things. There's an argument that some bureaucrats and some policymakers make that taking your children out of the compulsory system actually weakens the entire system. And I completely disagree with this. This is not like vaccinations, where when you don't vaccinate a small portion of the population, you endanger the rest. This is, in fact, the attempt to put all children in compulsory education is a threat to our society, as far as I see it. So I think it's hard. I think the discussion is a fraught one. And if you find bureaucrats in the educational system that are open to change, have those conversations and see if you can get some more openness. Mikkel's second question was about, I seemed in my talk to conflate the industrialization of education with the mass shootings that are happening in schools and other places in the US. And we have a really bad crisis going on that way. And I didn't mean to make a direct relationship. There are plenty of forces going on. Among them, America's intolerance for any kind of gun control, and the NRA's backing and lobbying, and somehow they've made this an untouchable topic for our politicians. Because they fear they're going to be beheaded at the next election. So I think there's plenty of things here, but I think that the industrialization of education centralized schools, made them these large institutions that are then easy targets. It made our kids and everybody else less interested in the process of learning, and it alienated a lot of people, some to the point of wanting to take out their aggressions on schools. So I think there's an implication there, but I didn't mean to draw a direct causal diagram kind of line. And then the third question comes from Aparna and asks for my opinion about STEM toys, about science, technology, and math. How does all this sort of come together? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they too structured, or do they add creativity and curiosity? And I just have to say, Aparna, I really wish I was 12 or 14 again. When I was little, I built little model airplanes of World War II. Somehow I got obsessed by those, and I built probably hundreds of them. I'm sure my parents went through lots of those kits, getting them for me. And what I have as a result of that hobby is a couple broken models in a box in the basement, and some talent with painting things and following instructions, and a lot of history on World War II. And if I had been doing that today, the kinds of things I could have gotten into, from understanding aerodynamics to flying simulated space shuttles, to flying drones and understanding aerodynamics firsthand, to drone races through stadiums, to massively multiplayer online flying simulations where you can actually simulate those World War II battles that I was reading about. You could actually sign up to be in a B-17 and be the turret gunner and fly a particular mission. And I know that's all about war, but you can run these simulations and plenty of other things. And now if you want to be an amateur astronomer, paleontologist, zoologist, biologist, you name it, and the gear to do all this has plunged in price. So garage biology, for example, or maker spaces make available the kinds of kit and gear that you couldn't have before. Amateurs can direct telescopes to different places in the heavens to take a particular photograph that they want. It's really, the world is astonishing. So there are a few of these STEM tools that are built from the old school rigid point of view, where we're trying to test some child on a particular body of knowledge. Avoid those if you can, but in general, all these things are really empowering. Maybe avoid the ones that have been most certified by the most ossified institutions. There are plenty of STEM tools that have been certified by really open, interested, curious institutions. Go for those. Go for those lists. I thank you all for your questions. It was a really, really fun time talking with you at PlayFutures, and I hope we can stay involved. Thanks.